Alright, so here we go. We're doing a Tabs mini-series of my faction comparisons. So, there is a... oh, crap. Give me a second. So, there is a small amount of factions that have guns. At least compared to the bigger factions with multiple different units. So, what I'm going to do is we're going to have each faction fight each other faction in a best 2 out of 3. Not in slow-mo, it can't be in slow-mo, that would take too long. And so we're going to start with our World War II factions, because those came first. And we are going to start with the Americans. So we're going to make the so I'm going to make the standard setup for all these units. And then they're going to fight each faction 3 times. Whoa. Okay, alright. Let me back up. It's alright. Let me think about it. Let me think about this. It's gonna be a best 3 out of 5, but they're gonna be in normal speed. So this video is still probably gonna be pretty long, but you aren't gonna be seeing each different faction. You aren't gonna see each faction matchup for that long because they're going by at normal speed. So, as you can see, each faction has 7 different unit types. I'm sure I've already explained this before, but I'm gonna just go over it again because why not? A shotgunner, an infantryman, which normally is an SMG weapon, a marksman, a heavy gunner, a special unit, which is unique to that unit, an elite unit, which is an upgrade of one of the other units, and an officer, whose main distinction is that he holds a pistol and there is a flag on his back. So, the first faction that the Americans will be facing off against is my Russian World War II faction. One thing of note is you can see the total cost of what it takes to set up a standard setup for my guys. For the Americans, it takes about $18,000. So that's their cost, but that cost doesn't necessarily matter. It's more about how the factions, how the different weapons and units mix together. So, alright, so let's look at this first round, round 1, the Russians versus the Americans. It looks like a pretty dominant American victory. They still have infantrymen. I see their officer. Never mind, he just got dead. He's dead now. Alright, that's round 1. And right off the bat, the Americans had a pretty good victory right there. They have all their special and elite units, all their marksmen, 1 heavy gunner, and 4 infantrymen left. Unfortunately, their officer didn't make it all the way through. He was the last person to die in the battle. Here we go. Now, of course, spacing out the units more might have a bit of a difference, but we're not going to space them out that far. They're going to be pretty close to each other. Round 2, here we go. Once again, it looks like when the rocket launchers hit, that's when things start falling apart. They can't hit it. Alright. Another victory for the Americans. This one looks like it's around the same. Once again, all of their elite units, all of their marksmen, all of their special units, which are the bazookas, and then a smattering of infantry, 4 infantrymen. So they actually did worse, because last time they had 1 heavy gunner left alive as well. So they did worse by 1 unit, but they still came out on top with, let's see if they have all of those. That's 8 units. That's another 6, so that's 14. And then 18, so they live with 18 to 19. So they're beating them with like half the unit stuff. Because it would be 17.5 technically, since you can't really have half the unit. They're beating them with 50%. And once again, a pretty dominant victory for the Americans, although did they lose a rocket launcher? There's supposed to be 3 on each side, but I don't see the last guy is supposed to be on this side. Interesting. Anyway, that's 1 rocket launcher, 2 rocket launchers, all of their marksmen, all of their elites. There's the other rocket launcher. So they got all of their rockets, so all of the guys who normally survive, and 2 infantrymen this time. So they got progressively worse over it, but they dominated the Russian faction 3-0. We'll now set up the German World War II faction next. Let's see how that one goes. So, doing those 3 fights, it took 3 minutes. So, 6 factions, 6 times 3, 18 minutes in theory. Because there's 6 factions that they gotta fight. And if that took 3 minutes. Alright, whatever. So, since this is the American video, where we go into the faction matchups with the Americans, let's go over their weapons real quick, unit by unit. Their shotgunners have the Arnold, the infantry have the Thompson, their heavy gunners use the BAR, their special unit is a bazooka trooper, their officer uses the M14, I believe that's what that one is. And then the marksman used the Garand. Wait, no, that should be like an M11 pistol, because the M14 is this semi-automatic rifle that their elites use, and their elites are an upgrade of their marksman, by the way. Oh wait, into the bird's eye view. So right off the bat, looks like their front line got instantly destroyed. Go back to normal speed. The rockets land. Oh, I'll talk about that. Alright, so once again, looks like the Americans are gonna win this one pretty handily. I wonder if they'll lose to any faction. I mean, I think the Americans do better when they're closer together though, so that might have something to do with it. You can compare costs up here. Again, costs don't always mean that they'll win. But let's see if the Americans lose at least 1 round, so that they aren't sweeping everyone. And it looks like they're actually losing this one, actually. I would say something about the German factions, but we're not talking about them. Well, the guys in the gas are instantly dead, and so it's just marksman. Oh, no, their elites on that side actually. The elites up top actually came out completely okay. So they did worse last round. They only got 7 people left. I didn't count how many they had in the first round, but I believe they had more. Alright, here we go. Round 3. Either way, it looks like it's going to be another easy sweep for the Americans. Again, I really think it's the rocket launchers that do most of this work. They have stupidly long range, they deal a lot of damage, and there's 6. Alright. Well, yeah, that's that. That's going to be that, and the Germans have been defeated 3-0. The Americans have not lost yet. They will now go to the last World War II faction, the Japanese faction. Alright. Oh, I'm sorry, I just spaced out kind of forgot what the formation was for a second. Alright. Let's see how the Japanese do here. The last World War II faction. Once again, you can see the cost at the top right there. And let's do this. So you can see the Japanese katana units rushing in, and this time it doesn't look good. The Americans are the ones who are getting swept out here. Oh no. Okay. So, looking at this, looking at the first 3 faction matchups, it seems like the Americans are beat the Russian-German faction, but as you look here with the Japanese, the Americans get crushed by the bum rush mentality. I believe a lot of the Japanese units do have a faster than base movement speed. Like, I know their elites do, obviously the swordsmen do. Oh my goodness. Wow, their corpses are just long all over the place. It's insane. So we got one elite with like no health left, and he's marching to his doom. He's getting some pot shots, does nothing. He gets shot once in the back of the leg, and he dies. Wow, look at how spread out these corpses are. Look how far away. If this guy was alive and he was standing up, let's just get a point of view. That's insane. Now you can see how the main battle happened with a cluster of corpses. Alright. At any rate, final fight, here we go. Round 3, oh boy. Corpses go flying. Corpses go flying. So, as you can see, Americans, they're winning this one. Oh snap, they held out this time, and they managed to wipe them out, to wipe the Japanese faction out. Alright, so 3-1, I mean 2-1, my bad, my apologies. And then we go into round 4 at this point, and then they get slaughtered. Well, they didn't get swept. So that's a good thing. Oh no, not this game. What? Oh snap! There's a rocket launcher. That guy got blown all the way back, and the rocket launcher also just got utterly destroyed. These are the elites. These are also the elites. Wow, look at that. That's pretty cool. The Japanese elite units actually stayed in their squads. That's cool. I like that. We have an entire infantry squad over here, another entire infantry squad, both heavy gunners, all of their marksmen, which means that the Americans only killed 7 Japanese troopers. Wait, I take that back. They killed 12. The 5 shotgunners, which look like they're all clustered right here, the 6 swordsmen, and the 1 officer. Well, that's the Americans' first loss as a faction to the Japanese. But there's also 3 factions in the faction with guns. Mega faction, I guess. There's, that we talked about last episode. There's the police faction, the modern bad guy faction, I still don't have a good name for them, and the Scala Worshipers. I had a name for these guys. The Scala Worshipers faction. I'll talk about them in their video on why I called them that. Anyway, we're setting up the police faction right here, right now, and we'll see how the Americans do. I'm not going to say that much about the other factions, because then I'll just end up repeating myself when I finally get around to doing their videos, where I put them against all the factions. Now, of course, technically the last video would be redundant, because by the time by the time I do the Death Worshipper faction video, you would have already seen them fight all the other factions, but it would have been spread out amongst 6 different videos. So, alright, you can see the cost of the police faction up top, and let's watch. Alright, boom, there's those bazookas, although they didn't have as much of an effect this time. And the police faction is steadily moving forward, advancing, only stopping once they're in optimal range to shoot. The Americans are trying to hold them back, but it just ain't working. And boom, they're down. Now let's see what the police faction has left. So these are their elite units right there. These are their special units. This is a heavy gunner. So they have both heavy gunners, most of their elites, all of their special, all of their marksmen, and the officer. So they primarily lost the shotgunners and the infantry. So the Americans killed 16. They killed all the infantry, all the shotgunners, and they killed 1 elite. Round 2, here we go. It looked like the Americans were winning for a second, but now the police faction is once again steadily moving forward. You can hear a lot of bullets bouncing off the police faction's multiple shields that almost everyone has. I feel like they definitely did better. The Americans did better this round, but they still lost. So, not good enough. Anyway, these are all special units, I'm assuming. Yep, that's a revolver. These are all special units. You have 1 elite unit right here. Some more special, so they survived with all the special units. But they lost more elite units with only 1 instead of 5 out of 6 this time. More heavy gunners with 1 instead of 2. But their officer survived. I don't think he didn't survive the last one, did he? No. And of course, we got their marksman in the back, just chilling as usual. Round 3, here we go. I believe the Americans are gonna get swept. Once again, you can hear a lot of bullets pinging off the shields. You can see the Americans are getting pushed back violently, and the police faction are just steadily moving forward, only stopping when they're in optimal range, as I said before. And the last bazooka trooper gets slaughtered. And I think they actually did a lot worse this round. Oh yeah, they definitely did worse. 4 out of 5 shotgunners are alive. Right off the bat. So 4 out of 5 shotgunners. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Something don't add up. Something don't add up. How did they survive with 4? So they had 4 over there, but 3 over there. What? Wait. D2D. Hold on, I got really confused because I thought there were 7 elites a lot. So I kind of messed up the count right there because I got stupidly confused for a second. But at any rate, I believe that's the worst they've done. You could easily tell because they actually had 4 out of their 5 shotgunners who were right on the front lines alive. So now they shall fight the modern bad guy faction, and if you're keeping tally on how many times they beat or lose to a faction, they're now 2-2. They beat the Russian and German factions in World War II, but they lost to the World War II Japanese faction, and they also lost to the police faction. And now they're going up against the modern bad guy faction. Oh, right, their officer doesn't have a flag. That's a mistake. All the officers end up having flags. I need to fix that. I also actually mess up the formation. I swap the elites and specials around because that's how they are in the search bar. if you look at the World War II factions, the special come before the elite, but in the faction with gun faction, the elite show up before the special on the little bar. So that's why I messed it up. See, look, special then elite, special then elite, special then elite, special then elite. But in this one, it's elite then special, elite then special, and then elite then special. So I messed that up last time. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I'd have to say, looking at the start, this is the closest cost-wise that the Americans have been to any unit, with only like one guy off. Yeah. Like, who's the cheapest? The cheapest, it would be a marksman or an infantryman, and that just barely takes them over. So they're like one unit away from being practically even cost-wise. Let's see how the factions do. Looks like the Americans are losing. Although they are starting to turn it around with their few remaining marksmen and elite. Well, they almost. Well, they kinda did. But then the modern bad guy faction got their act together and wiped the floor. So that was round 1. Will this be another sweep? Are the World War II factions just subpar compared to the modern gun factions because they have modern guns? Obviously, they're probably better. Even than the ancient gun? Well, no, because the Americans just manhandled them. All that's left to be snipers. Which, okay, where's this going? Wow, once again, it looked like the modern bad guy faction was about to have a comeback, but then they didn't, and the Americans lived with 3 guys. Would have been 4, but this guy died at the last second. They just couldn't reload fast enough to save him from getting shot. So 1-1. Looks like so far, faction-wise, they're pretty even as their cost would most likely suggest. Damage. Alright. Sorry, I was talking about something about the modern bad guy faction. Speaking of them, they win that time and they take the lead at 2-1. Alright, so let's see this third one here, the rocket launchers from the Americans versus the grenade launchers from the modern bad guy faction. The grenade launcher does a lot less damage, which is what I was talking about. And wow, it's back and forth again. I wonder what the deciding factor is that determines which faction wins this fight. Although, never mind. Let's say the modern bad guy faction has a bit of a chance. But nope. Last battle here. Wow. Yep. Alright, so they do go very well with their cost comparison here. This one went 3-2. Whichever faction wins is okay. You know, this might actually end up. Oh my god. Wow. Okay, so what just happened there was that the modern bad guy elite units just got completely iced by the American elite units. Those M14s. A lot of damage. And the Americans officially win 3-2. But I'm gonna play one more just to see if we got going. If the evens would go out. And I wanna see like what specifically makes the American win. Right? Okay, so I can definitely say. Alright, so we kept playing more fights here. It's the elite. It's the American elite units. So, depending on how well they do, the Americans can kind of mop the floor. Well, the Americans win 3-2. And the last faction they will be going up against is the newest faction, the Scala Worshipper faction. Which again, their name isn't just random. There's a reason why I gave them that name. But unfortunately, I'm going to say that in their actual video. which is 6 videos from now, because there's 7 factions. Alright. Wait. Yeah, their special go right there, and then their elites go back here. And the marksman. Alright. Here we go. Last one. Hoorah! Oh, right off the bat. People get blown back. Looks like the Americans are winning this. Although now tables are kind of turning. The tables are in fact. Actually the Americans might come out with this. Uh-oh. Oh, one of the converts actually did get a rocket launcher shot off. When I say convert, I mean. But at any rate, the Americans win that fight, despite this new faction's necromancy, I guess. I wanted to say a word like necromancy, but there's not a word like that I can think of. So, this American victory is more dominant than the last one. Okay. So, it seems like the Americans are a pretty powerful faction compared to all the other factions with guns. Assuming that they win this one as well, which maybe they're gonna lose. No, they're not. Alright, well, kind of a bit close there. Kind of a bit close on that last one. And on their last fight, they win with a squad of elite marksmen and a squad of regular marksmen. Each squad has one guy who has a huge head. So, it seems as if the Americans are a pretty powerful faction. They beat the Russians 3-0, the Germans 3-0. They lost to the Japanese 3-1. They lost to the police 3-0. They beat the modern bad guy with gun faction 3-2. And they beat the newest faction, the Scala Worshipers 3-0. So, seems like the Americans are a pretty dominant faction. So they're either clearly better or clearly worse than the factions here. They were clearly better than the Russians, clearly better than the Germans, clearly worse than the Japanese, clearly worse than the police, and clearly better than the Scala Worshipers. The only faction that was balanced between them was the modern bad guy with guns. But I actually think that the modern bad guy with gun faction was getting lucky, because I was starting to see a pattern where I was starting to see a pattern in the battle. Now, Tabs does have like RNG elements. Each battle is going to be different, right? But there is like general patterns that certain matchups have. Like if you do the same battle over and over again, you're going to see patterns. And so it's one final fun little thingy here. Let's compare all of the final fun little thing. Let's just have a shotgun duel. Some shotgun duels. Only the shotgunners. I just realized something stupidly cool I could do. Yeah, I'm gonna compare. So, after each fight, right? I'll compare one. So, I'm gonna have the American shotgunners 5v5 all the other faction shotgunners. And when I do the Russian video, I'll have their infantry fight up against kind of 5v5. You know, the typical squad size, all the other units infantry. And I just realized that there are 7 factions currently. And there are 7 units in each individual faction. So that's gonna line up perfectly. Awesome. Didn't even intend that, I just gotta move that. So, the American faction has the Arnold, the Russian faction has the Blunderbuss. We're on the arena. While the Americans took an early lead, they get destroyed late game. Look at the guys die by falling off the edge. Whatever. But, even when one of their guys doesn't go flying up there. If the shotguns had a chance to interact naturally without getting blown to pieces by everyone else on the board, the Russian shotgunners are better. Now we have the German shotgunners. You can get their cost up top. I believe the American cost is 2,100. We got the Germans. A couple of the German shotgunners got disorientated. That guy got launched off and he's insta-dead. And the German shotgunners just got disorientated, split apart, and they're getting murdered. I only see 3 corpses though, so I can only assume that one other poor guy got launched off the edge as well. So we're gonna have a best of these comparisons. Uh-oh. Things are turning around. The Americans have reloaded the Arnold, and the Germans use the double barrel, which, well, since I'm not gonna be talking German, it's a double barrel. It's actually very weird in that it does better if you only hold it with one hand. But I don't allow it. So I used to have the Germans dual wield 2 double barrels. That made them too powerful, and it looked weird having the old one. So I was like, you know what? Shotguns don't do anything anyway. Doesn't really matter. The only good shotguns. Anyway, the Japanese shotgun is the same weapon as the American, so it should technically be even. It's more about who holds their shotguns the right way. Ever since his magic. But this guy is just facing a whole firing squad who are all holding their shotguns the wrong way because he got disorientated. And that is friendly fire! Shame too, because he was the only one who was holding his shotgun the right way, so he was probably the only one who could kill this guy. They'll be stuck like this for all of eternity. Alright. Well, this guy should be dead. He's facing deadly trees. Looking at these 3 for all of time, and that 4th guy who was unfortunately domed by his friends. Would have killed him anyway, so I'm guessing. There we go. Alright. So I'm gonna call that one an American victory because they should have won that one. Just based off of. But because of dumb luck, the Japanese screwed out. Although, in this one, very Japanese dominant. One guy had his horse through a wall. The other guys got lined up and slaughtered, even though they're all using the same weapon. But, just because they're using the same weapon doesn't necessarily mean they have the same stats. They all shotgunners have 600 health. But, both these factions are but each one of them have different stats associated with it. So, like, let's break this down to a 1v1. Right? Boom. The Japanese one is just kind of better. I believe the Japanese unit moves faster. So the 3... let me just say it this way. It's kind of hard to tell unless I went to the custom unit creator and purposely showed you guys how this is. But the 3 stats that are different between these two would be movement speed, which you can clearly see the Japanese guy moves faster. Firing speed, which also affects reload speed, by the way. They're the same stat, because if you fire twice as fast, you'll empty your clip twice as fast, and so you reload twice as fast. And so you reload twice as fast. And damage, of course. Although I can't think of those stats off the top of my head. Anyway, now we have the modern faction, the police faction, which, in my opinion, I believe have the best shotgunners in the game, simply because, well, they have shields. They have riot for 2 reasons. They have riot shields, which block bullets, and they have the Mosenberg, which has increased range than others. Like, They're infantry, actually. Sure, at medium range, all they really do is like a couple of chip damage. But, you know, the shield and the Mosenberg's range really is helping them, because these guys haven't really even taken any damage. The Americans are starting to die. So yep, best shotgunners in the game, right here. Contest. They're the best. There's only one faction I can think of. So, just for fun, we already know what's gonna happen. Alright? But just for fun, the only shotgunners I think could beat them are, where are they? These guys. You might say, well, they cost less, and they're the exact same thing. But I would say that these guys beat them. I believe these guys have 100 more health. Wait, no, they don't. I'm stupid. They have the same health. They're elite, so elite units have 600 health, just like a ship. Well, I still believe they're going to beat them anyway, because since they're elites, they have stats. It's damage. See that in the fight. Once again, even though they have the same setup, like the Japanese Americans, Arnold, the hidden stats that you can't visibly see are important. Even though they cost more for some reason. I wonder why. Anyway, there's only one more faction of shotgunners to go through here. Oh wait, there's actually two. My apologies. And they're both the same. No, wait, no, they're not. They're not both the same. So, these guys use the Mosenberg as well, but they don't have shields, so they're actually so the Americans are more. Now, I know I kind of just rug you guys out of rounds 2 and possibly 3. American shotgunner versus the shotgunner. You see how dominant that battle was. Alright. The police faction clearly has the best base shotgun. And oh my god, one of their guys is gone. One of the Mosenberg dudes from the modern bad guy faction got chucked into a wall. He's dead. Although that American just got chucked off the map. He's also dead. So. But even at an early disadvantage, instantly losing one of their members, they still wreck house because the Mosenberg is a best shotgun. Anyway, alright. The last one. So, let's do a small recap. The American shotgunners lost to the Russians, beat the Germans, lost to the Japanese, lost to both Mosenbergs, and now they're fighting another faction that uses the Arnold. The, what are these guys called again? The Scala Worshipers. Yeah. So, another Arnold versus Arnold fight. So let's see how the hidden stats play this time. It looks like the Americans are getting their butts kicked, just like with the Japanese. I'm actually curious to see how the Japanese uses this fight. Oh yeah. Uh-oh, people are starting to hold their shotguns the wrong way. And the only guy who's holding it right is getting killed by friendly fire again. Don't do it! He's your only hope! And he has like no health either. So if you shoot him... Well, just like the Japanese, I'm gonna do the same thing with this American. There we go. Alright. That's a win for them. But yeah, wow. Yeah, Scala Worshipers. Shotgunners. Manhandling. I think they're winning. They're beating them more dominantly than the Japanese did, because the Japanese actually took some losses. Although I think the Americans just got from the fire. Wow, they winning with all 5, and they actually won. They actually would have won with all 5 last round too. There wasn't one friendly fire incident. Even though there was only 3 of them lined up, the last guy got stuck on a wall in the back. So yeah, the Americans have the second to worst shotguns, actually, and I didn't expect that. So they lost to the blunderbuss. They beat the double barrel shotgun, which I already knew was the worst shotgun in the game. So I already knew that the Germans had the worst shotguns and the police had the best. They lost to the other faction that used the Mosenberg, and out of the 3 factions that used the Arnold, they're the worst Arnolds. So I didn't expect them to be that bad, because I know out of the shotguns I use, you have the blunderbuss, the Arnold, the double barrel, and the Mosenberg. I know the Mosenberg is the best, and in my opinion, the Arnold is the next best. So, considering that, I expected the Americans to be better compared to all the other factions, but they're just the worst faction that has the Arnold out of 3 out of the 7 factions. So, and they couldn't beat the blunderbuss. So I'm actually gonna do this fight because I'm curious to see an Arnold, a battle for Arnold supremacy, and I swear that was friendly fire. There's no way that game could that game. If you got shot, you were playing at this angle, that had to have been friendly fire. Because he would have been flying towards the door. No, this door. So yeah, the Scala Worshipers shot their foot by shooting their guy off the map. Although, there's 1 dude, 2 dudes, manhandling the whole Japanese team right now. Oh my god, this guy is a legend. Alright, okay, I'm making a boss unit now, so we're gonna do that, right? To celebrate epicness, they will get a boss made after them. So Giga Chad was made after the one Japanese elite officer had a sick 3v1 killing 3 dudes, and that one shotgunner just had a 4v1 with help from a human shield. 4v1. Although, I believe that was just dumb luck. Although actually, I believe so. Oh wait, you have one guy who's hunting his gun normally. 3 kills, my friend. Oh, I think he just got shot by his team right there. Luckily, his gun is still being held in the correct position. God, I'm about to die from friendly fire. Wait, I believe that. Boom. Okay, 1-1. Fight on, Japanese support. Arnold supremacy continues. Although, I do think the first round was just a fluke because the Scala Worshipers are being consistently pushed backwards throughout all 3 of these matches. Although, this one was the least gimmicky match out of all of them. And the Japanese one. I was about to say for a second, it looks like the Scala Worshipers. They got messed up. So, the Japanese take the title of the best Arnold faction. So just had that. So you got a little bit of bonus battles, and there will be a new boss unit created. I'm gonna create it right now. So that's the whole video. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with the next one where we have the Russians versus everyone, and at the end we'll do comparisons between all the infantry units. Well, the Russian versus all the infantry units. See you guys later.